All right, welcome to the call, everybody. Today we're going to look at IULs, and this is just the very basics. So we're not going to get in too terribly deep. We can do that next week. Hopefully today we'll have time to learn what an IUL is, how to apply it, when to use it, how to find the right client for it, stuff like that. And if we have time, we can look at how to actually design one. If not, like I said, we'll do a little series every week, and next week we'll just pick right up where we left off. But let me share my screen with you. And this is very informal. So if you have questions, please just unmute and just ask. Don't raise your hand. I'll probably miss it. ADHD, bounce back and forth, So first, what is an IUL? Well, here's the best way I can describe it. Is any of you guys old enough to remember the movie Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? All right, so you might be. How old are you, Garrett? Wes.
49.
49, yeah, okay, I'm 47. So yeah, of course you remember that. Some of these guys look like they're like 19, 20, 22, so they might not know. They know who Arnold is, I'm sure, but they probably don't know what the movie is. But classic, in my opinion, from back in the, 80s movies. So you've got these four scientists, let's say the fastest guy, the smartest guy, the whatever. They take genes from all of these four superhuman people, and they're supposed to, mix all that together and then make a baby with this one lady, right? And that baby was supposed to be Arnold, the superhuman. And somehow the embryo split, and as the doctor says in the movie, when it split, all the purity and the good qualities and the muscles and the strength and the intelligence and all that stuff went into what Arnold Schwarzenegger sees in the morning every day. And then he looks at Danny DeVito. If you don't know who that is, it's the Penguin in the new Penguin series. That's Danny. Anyway, he's shorter, kind of round, and the scientist says, and all the crap that was left over is what you see when you look in the mirror every morning. So an IUL is kind of like the Arnold in this scenario. The IUL gets the best genes from its four parents. Its four parents would be a term life insurance policy, a whole life insurance policy, a bank account, and an IRA. So it kind of cracks me up that Dave Ramsey doesn't like these. If it says whole life is involved, he hates it, right? The term life, what's good about a term policy? It's got low premiums. You can get large face amounts, right? You can't lose money in the market because there's no money. Typically, there are some terms where you earn point of something, but typically term does not have any cash growth. Whole life never expires. You're guaranteed to have a policy until the day you die. I tell people it doesn't expire until you do. You have guaranteed growth. Typically you get like a 4% guarantee. I don't know if y'all have seen Vanguard's website this morning, but the current 20-year rolling historic average of all 401ks is now 3.1%. That's what they're earning. This gets a guaranteed 4, let's say. It's tax-free, 100% tax-free, right? Insurance protected from 3 tax laws. So tax code 7702 says that you can put money in this account and it can grow interest tax-free. Tax code 72E says you can pull money out of this policy in the form of a loan from your cash value, 100% tax-free. And then 101A says you can pass this wealth from one person to another, tax and probate free upon your death. And to this very day, the only way to transfer wealth from one person to another, tax and probate free, is using life insurance. And then it has compound interest, which means you always continue. It's like, think of it like a snowball, right? Going downhill. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just, there's no way to stop it. Once that compound interest starts growing, it just keeps multiplying and multiplying and getting bigger and bigger. It's awesome. What's good about an IRA? Well, you have growth, you have predictability. They look like, what's it called? The EKG, if you ever see the growth mark of like a stock index, it looks something like this, right? We don't know what it's going to do, but I mean, over time, it does trend upwards. So you have growth, predictability, direction, and planning. Bank account. Well, bank account's very easy. It's very easy to access your money. So I made a little chart just to compare a few of these things. Bank account, IRA, whole life term, IUL. So if you look at the average return on investment, bank accounts give you 0.01 to 0.06. If it's an actual bank, it's going to be 0.01 to 0.03. If it's a federal credit union, it's probably 0.03 to 0.06. IRAs, as we just said, 3.1. Whole life, typically you get 4%. Term, nothing. IULs, I put 7 to 11. There is a website that has like a little tracker, and they claim it's 8.67. Now that's a national average, right? That means, some companies suck and some are awesome. We only deal with awesome. We have a lot of qualifications in place before you're allowed to sell a product, a company's product. They have to do a lot of things right. They have to have good financial strength and security, be in business for 100 years, never miss a dividend payout, like all these different things, criteria that they have to meet to be able to, for us to be able to sell their products. So I put 7 to 11, and if we get into case design, I'll show you why. Susceptible to market volatility. Can I lose money when the market goes down? In a bank account, it doesn't matter because we don't play the market in a bank account. Whole life and term don't either. IRAs, yes, when the market goes down, you absolutely lose money. So, I like to take a second really quick and just draw for you because that makes sense to some people when I say it out loud, but some people are more like me. I'm more of a visual kind of learner. Anybody else like visual guy kind of guy, girl? So when the market goes up, it goes down, it goes back up. Let's just say, and listen, I'm left-handed. I'm drawing with my mouse here, so I'm trying to make too much fun of my drawing skills. But all right, y'all got to unmute for this. All right, Chris, you've probably seen this 1,000 times. So if you know the answer, let them try to guess. So you got $100,000 in your account. The market crashes, and we lose 50% of our money. How much money do we have now? Nobody. All right, 50,000. All right, we got 50,000 in the bank. Now, after a crash, we usually have what's called an expansion, where the market booms and goes up a lot. So let's just say it goes up 50, just to keep it even. Now, how much money do you have? It's okay if you get it wrong. Any guesses?
I know the answer. Nobody else jumping in.
All right. So, Dan, what does everybody usually say?
100,000.
Every single time we do this, I'm talking live in front of agents. I'm talking in front of clients. I show people this. They all say 100,000. So if you were thinking 100,000, it's okay. That's the whole point of the exercise. So here's why, because you've been brainwashed, right? And I can prove it. So you have 100,000 and you start losing money. So you run to your financial advisor and you say, I'm losing money. And they go, buddy, it's okay. It'll come back up. Just ride it out. You ever heard that? Just ride it out. Well, so you ride it out. The next year you get back 50%. So you think you're even because these wash out. 50 and 50 is a wash, but that's not exactly true. That's not how this works. So what really happened is you had 100. You don't have that anymore because you lost 50%. So what you have is 50,000. Right. So when you gained 50% in the market, you gained 50% of 50. So Dan, what's half of 50?
25,000.
Good job. And if you added those together, what would you have?
75,000. So
the correct answer is 75,000. Does that make sense to everybody? So here's how an IUL will always win. All right. So I've got $100,000, right? Same scenario. I lose 50%. All right, well, I don't actually lose because when the market tanks right here, we just simply say, you know what? I don't feel like playing this year. I'm going to take a 0. And technically, that could be a 1 to 3% bonus because a lot of our products and carriers offer bonuses. So, 0 is called the floor. You can't lose money. So when the market goes down, we just don't participate that year. Right now, the market goes up 50%. Well, guess what? We never lost anything, so we have $100,000 in our account. So we gained 50% of 100. So, Dan, you're good at math. So what's half of 100?
50,000.
Right. So what's 100 plus 50,000?
150,000.
Very good. And is there anybody on here dumb enough, if I ask this question, which person here would you rather be? The one that has 75,000 or the one that has 150,000? Right? Like nobody's going to be like, yeah, I don't have the 75. Nobody's that stupid. Like, listen, I've been the stupid person. There's some things that I don't do for a living that I don't understand and I appear stupid. That's not stupid. You're not stupid. You're ignorant, right? You're just ignorant on the subject. Ignorant just means you've not been educated on the topic. If I have somebody come over here to fix my plumbing, I am ignorant on the topic because I know nothing about plumbing. I've got one of these little home snake kits. It's not as easy as you think. I still call it a plumber. But anyway, this is what we do all day, right? So to them, we are the experts. They don't know this stuff. They're just going by what they think they know or what they've maybe read on, Google, or maybe what somebody told them. And maybe that somebody told them wrong information. So in other words, is there a way to clear this? Here, I'll just make this marker bigger. Here we go. All right. So in other words, if you had a 401k in this scenario, and the market goes like this, right? The little EKG thing that I drew a second ago. I'm not saying the market's bad. Okay. For a lot of y'all at your age, you could easily do well in the market because see, here's the problem. Let's say you're 22 years old right here, right? That was you, Clark. Clark in there. So you're 22. Let's face it, 22-year-olds don't have $1 million in their 401k. Let's say they're lucky and they have 50 grand. If the market crashes 50%, you lost half of 50, right? So you lost 25,000. You have all this time in your life to regain that money plus some. But let's just say you're right here. Let's say this is age 60, right? And let's say at age 60, you have $1 million and the market crashes 50%, where you just lost $500,000. And if you plan to retire in 5 years, you don't have enough time to get that money back. Versus the way the IUL works is it looks like a staircase because you can never lose money. Now, some years the steps are a little uneven. My carpenter doesn't know how to measure, but that's because some years the index provides more and some years it provides a little less. And some years it's that zero or maybe the 1 or 2% gain. But it always goes up. The staircase can't go down. All right, get rid of that. So we're back to here. 59.5 rule. Does anybody know what that means? 59.5. What that means is if you are under 59.5 and you try to touch money in your account, they will penalize you 10%. It's a federal penalty. So if you have a 401k, a 403b, a 403b is basically a 401k for a nurse, a teacher. If you had a 457, which is basically a 401k for usually a government employee, like a county employee, a city worker, police, fire, EMS. It could be a TSP. That's a thrift savings plan, which is basically a 401k for a federal employee. Somebody in the military would typically have a TSP. So for those of you who specialize in veterans affairs and veterans life insurance, that would be something I would ask every single one of them is, do you have a TSP? You're going to uncover a lot of annuity opportunities just by asking your veterans, do you have a TSP, thrift savings plan? If they say yes, don't panic. You don't have to know all this stuff just yet. You just say, well, we actually have some people in our office that specialize in retirement planning. I'd love to set you up a meeting with them to see what they could do to help you grow your money and protect it from loss. So anyway, bonusable. Do you get a bonus? Well, you don't get a bonus with a bank account, typically just for opening a bank account and having money in a bank. They don't give you anything extra. IRA doesn't give you a bonus. Whole life, term life, they don't give you a bonus, right? You don't sign somebody for final expense or term and they get a bonus. But IULs, yes, you can get a bonus. Legacy benefits. Legacy benefit is the life benefit, right? The death benefit. So does a bank account and an IRA have life insurance built in? No, that's one of the bad things. Orlando could start putting $1,000 a paycheck into a 401k, die 2 months later, he's put in $4,000, and honey be lucky to get that $4,000. That might even be a fight. She's definitely not getting a check for 500 grand like she would if they had gotten life insurance.
I'll be dead before she can find me.
Yeah. So whole life, term life, IUL, of course, have a death benefit. Living benefits, these two don't. Obviously, these three do. I'm assuming you all know what those are, but just to be clear, critical, chronic, terminal illness, cancer, heart attack, stroke, those kind of things are your living benefits. So I have this, what we're looking at right now, this file is on the Alpha Team Financial Facebook page. It's a private Facebook page for agents. You can go and you can download this and you can actually click and watch these. So I made these clickable. You have to hold down Control and left click each of these. But this is Doug Andrew He is basically the pioneer of IULs. He is one of the first people to really talk about IULs and teach on IULs and tell us how to structure IULs and how to use them. So he has a video called The Rich Man's Roth, because they call an IUL, Indexed Universal Life, they call it a rich man's Roth. So, and this hasn't been around forever. People are going to ask you, like, well, these are so good, why don't everybody use them? Well, this only started in 1997. Transamerica invented the first one. So they've not been around that long, and they've gotten better over the years. When they first started, they weren't the greatest products. But he even says this has 300% more benefits over a Roth. And I have a whole nother training that's Roth versus IUL, and you can see a list of the differences. This one is Robert Kiyosaki. Everybody in this channel should probably know who he is. If you don't, man, shame on you. At least get the book on Amazon, listen to it. But Robert Kiyosaki is one of the wealthiest billionaires of our day. And he wrote the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So if you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and you're in the financial services space, you should probably get that one. But anyway, if you watch these, you'll see he has a video called The 401k Killer, Robbing Your Retirement for the last 40 years. And then you have this one here you can watch. Forbes has a great article. There's a link to this on my website as well. So you can click here and it'll blow it up and show you the whole thing. But there's a Forbes article. It says why the IUL might be the new 401k. And in the article, I'll just show you a little tidbit of this real quick. My favorite part of this article, I'm going to let you read this whole thing, but my favorite part is, they're talking about the differences and how recession-proof life insurance is and how 401ks can't keep up with inflation and never will. So, but this right here, why might an IUL be better than a 401k? Guys, this is from Forbes, arguably the most trusted resource for financial information on the planet. So all these people, when I post a TikTok and they go, oh, he's a snake oil salesman, IUL's garbage, Dave Ramsey says it's crap, just, move on. Yeah, I'm like, this is from reputable sources, not guesses, not, well, my cousin told me they're garbage. My financial advisor who wants me to get a 401k told me they're crap. No, this is factual information. Read this. 401k is a tax code given by the IRS to tax you on harvest, not seed. That means you're going to be taxed on what you grow in the market, not what you put in. Okay. The 401k model was implemented in the 80s in the Reagan era for rich CEOs to have a tax shelter and somewhere to put their money over time. What that means is somewhere to hide their money from the federal government to not pay taxes on that money over time. But listen to this. What they found was if you could convince the middle class to put all their money in 401ks, you'll get more tax payouts later in life and collect more from the middle class. It was never intended to be a retirement account. If you go to my website and look at this article right here, the Time Magazine article, is your 401k underwater? This one talks about Robert Shively, 68 years old, and he's the cart mechanic at Niagara Falls Country Club. Not exactly how he planned to spend his retirement. Worked for Occidental Petroleum, 36 years. Was supposed to get $1,300 for his guaranteed pension. Last minute, they switched to a 401k system. Now he gets $225 a month to live on. Had to go back to work. I hear these stories all the time. The cover of the article when this came out said, the ugly truth is the 401k is a lousy idea, a financial flop, a rotten repository of our retirement reserves. That is strongly worded and sounds like Dr. Seuss. So it does. But man, that's powerful. I've had a 401k at every job I've ever had, including my last insurance company. We weren't taught this. We were always taught, keep telling people, put enough in to get the match, and then diversify, put the rest somewhere else. Oh, let's see. Where were we? Let's go back to this little slideshow here. Oh, that's the wrong one. All right. So this is a neat one. Walk a Flock of Flame. There's a video you can click and you can watch this. And it literally, they've got him on stage and they're doing an interview and they're talking about, his investments and what he does. And he goes, man, please. He said, I used to be stupid with my money. He said, I used to spend money on everything. He said, now I'm going to take me $2-3 million, put it in an insurance policy, and I'm going to borrow for myself. And then he said, I'll never go broke. And people were like, what's he mean he'll never go broke? What's he talking about? He's going to put money in life insurance and never go broke. So that blew up on the internet. I don't know how many times that video has been shared. I've shared it across like 7 different channels. I had somebody once ask me, they said, all right, if IUL's so good, name one famous person came forward, said that they made a lot of money. I'm like, okay, how about Jim Harbaugh, right? I'm not a sports nut. Y'all know that. But Harbaugh is the coach of Michigan, or was, right? And I don't know the exact terms of his contract, obviously, because I didn't write it, okay? But if you look up and read about it, what I've read is that he had a 6-year contract that basically stated as long as he stays with Michigan for 6 years, they're going to take $2 million a year and put it into an IUL as a bonus. That IUL is going to grow massive amounts of cash value. And then if he stays with them for 6 years, they're going to assign him ownership. They're going to give him keys to the car. And he's going to drive away in this pretty new retirement vehicle that gives him a $1.4 million tax-free income for the rest of his life. That made him the highest paid football coach. Nick Saban, I believe, earns 1.8, and I'll probably get this wrong. It was close, but I believe Harbaugh got 1.6 or 1.7, but with that IUL and the bonus, he makes more than Saban. So literally made him the highest paid football coach in history. Okay, are there risks? Yes, there's risk. I like to talk about the risk with clients first. The first thing I do when I open up, an illustration is I go straight to, let me show you the bad stuff. Let's just knock this out first, right? Because what I don't want to do is sell them on the dreams and the sunshines and the rainbows and not tell them what the downsides are. And then they see somebody's video out there that hates IULs that go, you better ask him about the fees. And then they see that and they call you and they go, hey man, the fees on my policy? And you're like, oh yeah, lots of them. They're crazy. And they're like, what? You didn't tell me I had all these fees. If you explain the fees and you set it up right, the fees don't matter. But if you don't explain the fees, it looks like you're trying to hide the fees. And it's an optional report. It's not on every illustration. So you have to actually check a box to get it on there. I wish it was just included with every policy. But anyway, Dave says buy term, invest the difference. It's funny because, like I said earlier, that this kind of is a buy term, invest the difference, right? You bought term and then you invested the difference. You have a little bit in a system that looks like a bank where you can access money. You have a little bit in a system that's whole life where you have a guarantee of how much you're going to get. You have a little bit over here in this system that works like an IRA in the market where you can earn money, but you can't lose. All right. There's no taxes, penalties. There's no management fees. So Orlando, you crack me up. He over here dancing. I never know if he's listening to me or music, but man,
I'm listening to you, plus I'm also helping my agent close the deal. So I'm excited that he closed the deal and also what you're saying.
Awesome. Good job.
Multitasking.
So, yes, sir. So anyway, the world is full of Dave Ramsey-ites, as I call them, that hang on his every word, correct or incorrect. Dave's a great guy. He wants to help people, but he has a niche. How do you say that? I'm in Kentucky. We say niche, but I think the Lexington, Kentucky in me wants to say niche. So, and plus, I have my espresso. So if I'm holding this, I can say niche. Anyway, sadly, understanding the complex components of all types of life insurance policies is not his greatest asset. If you suck with money and you're so far just beyond stupid amounts of debt, Dave is a great person to listen to and follow, right? He has the envelope system. This is the money you have left over. How much of it do you need for entertainment, for eating out, for, going to the movies, for whatever, right? You split up your money in envelopes. When that money is gone, right? When your clothes shopping money is gone, guess what? You don't buy more clothes until you get paid again and more money goes in the clothes envelope, right? When the entertainment and the eating out budget money is gone, you don't eat out anymore until you've made more money and you've put it back into the budget. That's a great system. If everybody would follow that, you'd be doing much better with money, right? Just the little things he tells you, like stop buying a bottle of water at a gas station, right? It's $2.50. For $3, you can buy a case of 48 of them at Walmart. Put them in your trunk. So just the little tidbits. He's good with stuff like that. But when it comes to investing and telling people where to put money, I don't believe he's the right person to follow. So what are the risks? The main two are the increasing cost of insurance and the fees. That's simply the biggest things. And we'll look at that also, but age and structure has a lot to do with that. And I look at policies all the time that other agents have set up, and I'm looking at it going, okay, either it was a new agent that's like, you know, like let's say Orlando just started writing IULs, right? And he's been through the online training class, but like every company has different design software. They all look different. They all act a little different. And so let's say he sets one up and maybe it's not tweaked 100% how like I would have done it. It's not that it's wrong. It's just, it could have been tweaked a little bit better, right? So that's possible. Or it's possible that maybe he just is a really greedy mother that doesn't care about people, because I see people all the time that design these things so horribly to where they literally triple or quadruple their commission instead of setting it up the right way. So, you know, I was teaching a new agent about IULs the other day. They sent me this article that Kyle Busch was suing, was it Penn Life or somebody, over his IUL. Well, people are like, oh, look at this. IULs are bad. He's a famous guy. He's suing a company because he has an IUL. It's not working out. Okay, that's one person out of millions of people that have an IUL, right? I just showed you one from Forbes about Jim Harbaugh, who was the highest paid football coach in history. So yeah, there's good and there's bad everywhere you go, but it's not the policy. It's not that the IUL sucks. It's not that the insurance agency sucks. It's not that the company sucks. That agent wrote it the wrong way. It was structured incorrectly, or he would be a happy camper. So anyway, those are the only two real risk is the cost of insurance and fees. Discussing and discarding the risk. So I just kind of talked about this. So age, health, contribution amounts, even location, all play a role. All right, so how the fees are calculated. I have, if you will hold down control and click your left mouse button, you can see this. So I had a video that went stupid viral about IULs, and I had a lot of people that commented. I mean, not a lot. You know, I mean, when it goes viral and you're getting like 6,000 comments, I mean, there was like 10 comments of people going, "You better ask about all the fees." And I was like, okay, dude, let me show you your fees, right? So I responded to his video and I said, in response to the fees, here's how I explain this. And so we looked at the fees. And yes, when this guy was like 65 years old, right before they retired, the fee that year was $10,775 in a single year. That's the fee. But if you look at the fixed credits, the indexed credits, and the bonus credits, they totaled $87,000. So again, there's not too many people on the planet that are dumb enough that would not give me 10 grand if I was going to give them back 87 grand, right? Like that's just common sense, I would imagine. If I go, Orlando, you got 10 grand? If you do, let me borrow it. I'll give you back 87 tomorrow. Okay. I'll go find 10 grand right now. I'll find 10 grand every day if you're going to give me back 87 grand in return the next day. Who wouldn't do that? So anyway, there's how the fees are calculated. And then age, right? Is it right for everybody? No. For babies, oh dear God, every parent, if you love your children, you should have an IUL on your child. There, I said it. It's going to be on the internet. I'm the guy that said that. If you have a baby and you love your baby, you should have an IUL on your baby. When my children were born at 15 days old, they bought their first IUL. They're very smart babies. So I only put like $37 a month into that account. Well, on a low end, like I ran it at like 5%, right? We already talked about these average closer to 9. I ran it at 5%, and it said that when my babies hit like 65, they were going to have $238,000 of tax-free money a year. And I was like, hey, I would rather not wait until I'm 65 to get $237,000 a year. How much do I get if I retire at like 45, right? Because like I'm 47 now. At 45, I think it dropped, and I'm making this up, but let's say it was like 50 grand. Right? It was much lower, but it was 50, 68 or something. I would rather get 50 or 60 grand when I'm 45 to help me out in life instead of waiting until I'm 65. I mean, I might get till 65. I may not even get to enjoy any of that money. So you don't have to put much money in on a baby. All right, $50 a month would be insane growth for anybody under, let's say, 10, 12, you know. From there, maybe you start adding a little more, 75, 100 a month, whatever. If they're 30 years old, I mean, you know, 200, 300, 500, the more you put in, the more it grows, right? is it good for Gramps? Well, it depends. Okay, I've written plenty of these on 60-year-olds, but you got to be very careful, and you have to show them, like, here's what it does, here's how it works, and here's roughly how much money we should expect it to grow. But ultimately, I use this for retirement. Retirement, if you call me and say I'm 62 and I want an IUL, I'm asking why. Like, what do you expect the IUL to do for you? I make them sell me on the idea of the IUL just to make sure that their understanding of what they're going to get out of this thing is accurate, because they've probably heard some misinformation all over TikTok of somebody that didn't exactly know what they were saying. And they think that they can be 62 years old, put in $50 a month, get $1 million face value policy, and borrow $900,000 next week to go buy a commercial office space that they're going to rent out. And that's going to be their retirement income so they can travel the world. That is not how that works. You can't borrow more money than what you've put into the account or what it has grown. And at 62, I promise you can't find an IUL for somebody for $50 a month, because they got to pay for cost of insurance. So most of you sell final expense. If I'm 62 and I had $50 a month to spare, you'd have a hard time finding me a $10,000 burial plan, wouldn't you?
Hey, Shannon, this is Jersey. I'm about to head to work. This is my first time watching your video.
Yeah, no problem. I'm recording it, so I'll post it and I'll share it on my little Alpha team. Are you part of the Alpha team group?
I am not.
Text me and I'll send you a link. Write down my number real quick.
Okay, hold on one second. All right, what is it?
859 333 3747.
All right. You said 859-333-3747?
Yes, sir.
All right, sounds good. I'll text you.
All right, man. See you.
All right, thank you, man. Loving it, dude.
You got it. Anytime. So anyway, if I'm looking at this from the point of this is a retirement plan, if you're 62 and typical retirement age is, let's say, 65 or maybe 70, like, you don't have a lot of time to grow money, which means you better be putting in a lot of money if you expect it to grow, because you've got to play catch up. You should have been doing this when you were like, a baby or 30, right? You're starting too late. There is another way to use an IUL that I don't know. We don't really talk about it much, but for all you all that sell final expense, especially like these veterans life policies and stuff, you can structure an IUL in a way that it becomes a final expense policy. You can basically set it up to guarantee a death benefit, just like a whole life. But since it has that term component built in, it's not going to earn much cash value, right? Which a final expense doesn't earn much cash value anyway. So we're not doing it for the cash value. We're doing it solely for the death benefit. Then if you structure it the right way, you can get a final expense product out of an IUL for a lot cheaper price. So that's another way you can structure one of these. I'm going to do this today and show you how you can use an IUL for infinite banking. And then next week we can actually set up one. And then Jersey, how old are you?
I'm 27, about to be 28 this month.
Oh, cool. All right. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Next week, I'll plan to actually structure a case, and next week I'm going to use you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Sounds good.
Be on, because I'm going to use you. We're going to do a male 28, and just pretend like you're a client, and we're going to set up a case in your name, and I'm going to explain it exactly how I would if you were a client, a prospect. So, but for today, I had this pulled up and I forgot about it. People ask me about infinite banking. When you talk about infinite banking is simply a concept, right? That's where you put money in life insurance, it grows interest, and you borrow that and then pay yourself back or not. You can do that with an IUL, or you can do it with a mutual whole life. You'll hear me refer to the mutual whole life as an infinite bank, and then I just call the IUL the IUL. If I had to tell you a quick, easy difference in the two and when to use them, an IUL is like a 401k. You put money into it, you keep putting money in, you keep putting money in. One day you retire, you use that account. That's an IUL. Now, if you need to tap into that IUL over time, right? Like to get yourself out of some trouble, you go through a divorce, you got, your car breaks down, you need to buy a car, you want to use a little money to invest somewhere else or buy a rental property, or you can do that with an IUL, right? Just like you could do some of that with a 401k. You could take money out of an IRA. So yes, you can. But then you have this one over here that is what I call the infinite bank. That is the mutual whole life or a participating whole life. And that one, if I had to call it something, would be a high yield savings account. Because with that one, you can put money into it, you can deposit money and withdraw money anytime you want. They're both going to earn good interest. The IUL, if you're, let's say you're under 50, and this is a very generalized statement that people are probably going to argue with, but I can prove it in numbers and illustrations. So if you're under 50, I would say in most instances, the IUL is going to grow more cash than the infinite bank. The big downside to the IUL that people don't know about or don't talk about online is you should wait 5 years minimum before ever touching money in an IUL. So if somebody says, I'm looking for a retirement plan, I want to put money in, set it and forget it kind of mentality, just look at it in 30 years, that's IUL. If they say, I flip houses for a living, I want to put $200,000 into this account, and then I want to borrow 100 next week and go buy a rental property. That's not an IUL, because you should not touch money in an IUL for a minimum of 5 years. Okay, write that down, please. So what do banks do with your money? Well, here's Mike and Sharon. It's my parents' name. All right, Mike and Sharon, they work 60 hours a week. They make money and they pay their bills, right? So first we pay our bills and then we take what's left and we put it in the bank. What does the bank do with our money? The bank takes it and they put it in something called bank-owned life insurance. It shows you a report from the FDIC, banks ranked by life insurance assets. Now, people argue with me online. That's not why banks take money out. That's not why banks put money in life insurance. They do it so they make money on their employees when they die, is what somebody online said one day. And I'm like, yeah, the bank is just buying life insurance on all their employees so that, you know, hey, they're going to die one day. We'll make a lot of money if we do this. They do it as an asset because banks are legally required to have so much of their money in what's called Tier 1 capital. Tier 1 capital is the safest rating money can have. So this is a list. So take a look at this. There's a list here of roughly 3,000 banks that currently own, I believe it's about $205 or $209 billion. This was when I did it last year. You have $209 billion. We'll just leave it at that. So $209 billion. I mean, look at this. Like I use Chase, okay? $12.8 billion, B as in boy, $1 billion of life insurance. So what they're doing, they're taking my paychecks that I deposit in the bank. They're buying life insurance with it where they earn 10% interest. Then they're giving me back 0.01, 0.03 if I'm lucky, which is not even keep up with inflation. So even though $1 20 years ago is still $1 today, that dollar is less valuable today. That's called purchasing power, right? So like Dan is about my age. So Dan, if you had 50 grand in the bank today, like your wheels are turning. What could I do with 50 grand? All right, go back 20 years ago. What could I do with 50 grand? A lot more, right? Because things cost a lot less back then. 20 years ago, shoot, things got a lot more expensive now. And that is how your money loses value. So they put money in life insurance. Why don't you? Well, and oddly enough, why do they sell IRAs? You go to the bank, you can buy an IRA. But they're taking your money, investing in life insurance. I just always thought that was a little weird. All right. So next, you take your money and you put it into an infinite bank, right? And that could be, like I said, IUL. It could be a par whole life, mutual whole life. But ultimately, here's the benefit. So you're earning about 10% interest. There's really no risk. As long as it's structured correctly and you've explained the fees and you look at all those possibilities of what could go wrong, it's very easy to set up the cases correctly. So no risk. There's no 59.5 rule. We talked about that, right? You can touch money anytime. You don't have to be 59.5 to touch your account. Liquidity. It's so easy to touch money. People are like, so you take out a loan, how do you qualify? I'm like, no. The button doesn't say request a loan. It doesn't say apply for a loan. It says take a loan. The next screen says, all right, you got $100,000. How much do you want? It doesn't say what's it for. You can be buying crack. They don't care. It's your money. It just says, how much do you want? You say, I want 50 grand. You hit next. It says, this is the address we have on file. We can wire transfer it into your bank account tomorrow, or we can send a check somewhere else. Like if you're buying a car, you know, you can actually have the check sent to the Chevy dealership or whatever. So it's very liquid. Legacy benefit, we talked about that, right? You leave a legacy benefit behind when you die. Living benefits, critical, chronic, terminal illness, cancer, heart attack, stroke, all built in. And then it's 100% tax-free. We talked about the 3 tax laws. So if you use infinite banking, you're basically recycling money. You're putting money into an insurance policy. You're depositing money into a bank account, right? I've stopped using the word premium and payment because it's not just that. When you put money in a life insurance policy, this type of life insurance policy, let me rephrase this. If you sell somebody a basic final expense policy, you're selling them based off price. They called you and they said, I need a policy. You said, how much? All right, Jersey, you're fairly new with us, right? You had anybody ever in your life so far today call you and say, I need life insurance. And you said, how much do you need? Have they ever said, you know what? I was talking with my wife last night. We're going to need $312,176.18 worth of face.
Yeah, no, never heard of
No, they round it, right? We need 100 grand. We need 200 grand. We need 150. Like it's always like a multiple of 20 or 25 or you know what I mean? So no, they never call you and give you a weird number. So they give you an even number, right? And then you give them a weird price. That price on that final expense, $20,000, it's going to be $36.42. All of that money goes to the insurance company. They get to keep it. That's profit. When you do an IUL, it's a lot different. You're purposely overfunding the account because what you don't pay to the insurance company just simply goes into your bank account and earns interest. So now when I ask people, how much do you want to put in your account? I don't ask them, how much do you want to pay a month? Because watch this, Charles, I read minds. Okay. You can unmute just to tell me if I'm right or not in front of everybody. You're not hurt my feelings, be honest, but I'm a mind reader. You haven't met me, but I really do read minds. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and I'm going to tell the audience what you're thinking. All right. The first question is, Jersey, how much do you want to pay for life insurance? All right. He just said in his mind, as little as I have to. All right. Now watch this. Same exact question. I'm just going to word it different. Jersey, how much do you want to deposit in your bank account every month? Oh, that was a much different answer. He said, as much as I can. When they're buying a final expense, that's all a bill, right? AT&T is a bill. Electricity, that's a bill. When you pay for your cell phone, you can't call up AT&T and be like, yo, check it out. I've been paying y'all for about 27 years now. By my calculations, I've given y'all like 37,000. And listen, my transmission went out. I need to borrow $2,000. That's not what AT&T does. They're going to look at you like you got 3 heads and be like, what? This ain't a bank. Because that's a bill. An IUL is not a bill, right? With an IUL, you're saying, I would like to deposit or contribute $1,000 a month. And then I tell the computer, show me the smallest amount of coverage this person has to have. And then let the rest of the money sit in the account and earn 10% interest, just grow. So usually, especially at Jersey's age, you said 28, I think, 28, yeah. So at that age, I mean, I'm making this up, but let's say $100 a month, out of your $1,000 payment is going to the insurance company. That's the bill. The rest of it's sitting there in your account. You can use it and it's earning interest. So if you use it smart, you can use it in 3 different ways. Everybody knows when you die, somebody else gets a check, right? 100% tax-free and probate-free. So that's the life insurance portion. That part, you know about cash value. So, with an IUL, you make a larger quantity of cash than you would on like a basic final expense or anything. So you can use the cash value and you can use it for anything. Get yourself out of debt, purchase assets. The first thing I do with mine is I buy income producing assets, buy a business, buy something that requires very minimal effort that's going to produce you an income stream. And I'll just give you some tips because I've got a lot of clients that do this. I have some that buy storage units, like little mini storages. There's literally nothing to do. They have a keypad system. People, sign up. They get a code. They get assigned a locker. They get a key. They put on a lock, a pad, or whatever. Like you don't have to really be there. You have security cameras. There's just not much to do. Vending machines. I've got people that buy vending machines and they place them out places just for free. People are like, yeah, you can put a vending machine here. Like, imagine you go to get your tires done, right? There's vending machines there. That place probably doesn't own them. It's probably somebody like you or me that owns those machines that said, hey, I'll put these here. It's a good service for your, patrons, your employees. And all I do is I pay some kid $12 an hour, a couple of days a week. They go collect the money and refill the machines. Car wash is a good one. All you got to pay is a water bill, electricity bill. Pay some kid $12 an hour to show up and change out the towels and, the vending machines, right? So there's a lot of things you can do with that. Or when you get enough money in there, you could buy real estate. You could flip it. You could, do rentals. There's all kinds of things you can do with this to make you more money. After you have, I didn't realize all those things are literally right there. I should just read my own script, But after you've done these things that produce you income, then you can start, acting like a rock star, right? Go get your supercar and your boat, your jet ski, and whatever else you need. But first, try to buy some productive assets. So we'll say that's it for today. Any questions at all? Anything for today? And then next week, we're going to look at how to actually structure an IUL.
Good work, my boy. Thank you.
Well, yes, sir. Anytime.
Trying to be like you when I grow up.
You better hurry up. You're pretty grown, man.